Okay, good evening, everybody. So when Art threw this at me to do this, it was 2 weeks ago. I'd just come off 2 weeks of us being online. We moved straight from in the classroom to online without any break. And since then, it's been 2 weeks of spring break for me. So I've been out of the classroom, and the world has moved on, and I've watched a lot of teachers come online. So what the biggest thing I've learned is that my situation is not representative of everybody's situation. So hopefully there's something we can all take out of. Um, I can't be as exciting as live coding. I don't know how to do that. I do have a little bit of a demo to go through just to give you a feel what my classes might look like. And then, open up to discussion as time permits around some of the other issues going on. One of the things that I talk about quite a bit when I talk about Zoom is setting up my system ahead of time, ahead of my class, so that things go well. And so hopefully I've done that now. I did do it quite some time ago, so you should be seeing my titles page for my presentation at this point.
Yep, we see it.
In my class, I use Dino, so I can see my scholars' screens. It means I don't have to ask if something's showing. Obviously, as you get more polished with it, you get comfortable, you don't have to ask, but having that looking over my students' shoulders is a really good, nice crutch for me. So what to expect? Some of my experience from 2 weeks of teaching online, making some sense of the headlines of Zooms, and hopefully lots of your observations and questions. I am also recording on my end today so that we get a look at what I do from a presenter point of view that you can't see on Zoom. So I'll make that recording available too once I polish it up a little bit. So what I'm going to talk first about is Pear Deck. Pear Deck's a wonderful add-on to Google Slides. If you haven't seen it, some of you have. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. Pear Deck's recently changed some of their words and stuff around it to be more virtual environment friendly. I noticed that today when I was setting up this demo. So they're seeing the same things that I am. When you go online, you need a lot more check for understandings. You do not have the body language to judge by whether people are following you. You need to stop and ask frequently. Pear Deck lets you plan that in. Pear Deck's also great because it's getting more supports in for your English language learners and for your special ed. They have more written material in front of them. They can control some of the pacing on their own at times. So all that's great. So where was I going? Oh, yes. So the way I handle this in my class is, and I mentioned this somewhere in my slides later on, is that I have a notepad up on my end with all my valuable links so that I can immediately jump into, it's been a long time. I'm having trouble finding where things go. I've posted a link in the chat for you to follow to get you into my Pear Deck. You can also go to Join PD and enter the join code, but I don't know that that's displayed at the moment. Oh, it is. It's SNPDE. If you go to joinpd.com, I believe.
I'm in there.
Okay. So I can see now that I have 6 students in on my environment. Now, one of the things that I'm doing tonight is I'm running off of 1 screen instead of 2. And that was simply for the recording point of view. I normally run 2 laptops at the same time just to separate my workflow out. Okay, I believe there was a question there about cutting and pasting out of chat. I think that might actually be something in the security, isn't it? Well, who knows? We'll go from there. Let's go ahead and move on in Pear Deck. A few warm-up questions. One of the things to remember about the online classroom is that one of the purposes here, beyond just the learning, is the socialization aspects that we get, and the important, the social emotional check-ins that we have, and just getting everybody to participate. So warm-ups where people are participating, And my audience is a little different than the other audiences I've been talking to lately, so I'm getting a lot of others here today. Just as a little background, in my household, I have a 7th grade teacher, 2 high schoolers, and a high school teacher, and we have 4 different educational environments going on right now with varying degrees of online. Both of my high schoolers are also are co-enrolled in college classes, so that adds another 2 environments. So we have meeting with students online periodically. So I can, with Pear Deck, show you how people are responding. And you can see the responses up on the screen. So we have 7 of our 9 responses. I'm not gonna drag this out as we go. I'm gonna keep moving along just so we're not eating up time. I'd hate to run into the second part of our evening. So the warm-up question 2 goes towards grading. How are you doing grading? E3 is still working on our regular grading system, but we've certainly pulled out some of the new material, much like the model the AP is using, kind of like instruction ended, but we're still going to get you a score on what you've learned so far. And that's what I'm seeing a lot of, yeah, this is your grade for the year, but you can bring it up types of grading. And it's been interesting how many teachers are talking about, hey, we're not giving out grades, but we're not telling them, just to try to keep them involved. And I don't know how long that's going to work. Okay, and then just to show you another type of response that we can make. I'm sorry, I didn't show the responses there, but I really wanted to show you the responses on this one. This is a built-in Pear Deck slide, and I have gone down. I can hear some typing, so what I'm seeing right now is my screen has locked up. So I can't switch between anything. I may end up having to reboot here, folks. That would be most dreadful.
It's okay, it happens.
Okay, do me a favor and stop.
Can you advance the slide and see if it moves?
Literally, I can't Command Tab to switch applications. I can't hit Escape and do anything.
Oh, okay.
My mouse is frozen. It's a very odd situation. So what I was wondering is if you killed my share, if you forced my share, or maybe even kicked me out of the Zoom meeting.
And the way you do that, Min, is you share your screen and
right.
share the whiteboard, and that way you don't actually see your screen, but that'll take it away from him.
Okay.
I just had to do this, so.
So how do I stop Stevens?
You can't stop. You have to start your own share. That's the best I know.
I was under the impression that if you went to that menu that's at the top next to the green block and pulled it down, there should be a stop center for the host.
Does it work now?
So Beth, I noticed that in at the very top of the Zoom screen, it says I'm viewing Steven Cerruti's screen. When I go to the view options, it says I can do Min or Steven's screen.
So, and the other lovely things, Windows and Mac are pretty different. Then if you make me like co-host or something, I think I'll be able to do it.
Okay.
You do that by you click on participants, my name will come up, and then there's if you hover over it, there'll be a thing.
On a PC, there's a hotkey to stop sharing. If you press Alt and T at the same time, that should work.
Okay. I should have grabbed the screen from you, so hopefully you've got something back. And I'm showing everybody this lovely whiteboard. Woo! And then I can stop sharing so that we don't have issues.
Okay.
Oh, I'll just point out, I did put this in the chat. There's, you know, how often is Zoom updating? All the time, but there was a really, really important one yesterday, and it makes it adds some security features to the bottom of your, or to your basic bar, and it makes it really easy so you can like take away chat, you can take away share screen, you can take away the ability for kids to rename themselves, you can lock the meetings so nobody can get in.
Is that for pro and non-pro accounts, Beth?
Oh, I'm not certain.
Okay.
I know that we have the same feature and we got the same update, and we're using the free version.
Okay, so I've come up on a different computer. I'm going to end the Pear Deck at this point, but I can share again.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, I still see my old screen.
Yeah, we still see your old screen.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
I'm
that's
still seeing
funny
as well.
because, let's see, am I in here twice by any chance?
You are.
Yeah, boot me, the one with the green sharing symbol, just boot me out.
I think I'm still looking at his old screen. It never changed.
Yeah, I'm in the same.
Yeah, I'm hoping we can boot my old session out because that computer.
I stopped. Yeah, I'm clicking on stop participant sharing. Not working. Okay. Yep, stop Steven sharing.
So
It's
this
still
is what I've
appearing.
been experiencing with me doing this with my kids. Just to let everybody know, it's just part of the deal, you know, and nobody, you know, it's just what it is.
It's actually the best kind of learning we can do.
That's
Yep.
true.
I agree with you, Mark.
Trial by
The
error.
screen is stuck there, even though I stopped the sharing.
Steven, did you turn
Maybe
that computer
Steven
off?
could, maybe if Steven left and then came back in.
Okay, I can leave. So I have turned that computer completely off.
Okay.
And so I came in on a different computer, but let me leave from this computer and we'll see what happens.
There he goes.
There we
He just disappeared.
Okay.
Hi, Suzanne.
One thing I have noticed is sometimes when things are busy, there's a delay when you like kick somebody out or stop sharing them. You have to like, or unmute them. It's like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically Pear Deck, really great for checks for understanding. I do it a lot with my material. I tend to be somebody who will run over the scholars and not wait long enough for them to respond. So this is a real efficient way to do it. And you make sure you get responses from everybody. You can see who's responded, who hasn't, call them out, get those responses in. Quick review on features. Now, I do this exact thing at the beginning of classes, and I'll be doing it again when we come back from spring break, just to remind everyone. For most participants at this point, you should have a bar at the bottom of your screen with a little smiley face and a plus sign on the smiley face, and you have access there to the thumbs up and the clapping. I see that Beth has thumbs up. I got some clapping, some thumbs up going on. I will sit here in class until everybody's thumbs up or whatever, and then I will use this throughout class. I will allow them to either thumbs up with that or thumbs up with a actual thumbs up on video. We do have a policy at E3 that your video's on. This policy may not work for everybody. We had this discussion with the County Office of Education, and different districts are putting different policies in place because of the recordings of the student videos. So then the interactivity menus, you're going to go to the participants panel. So you should see the two profile or the two portrait pictures down at the bottom and the number of participants. And you see your raise hand, your yes and no buttons. And I will start off by asking, can you hear me? And get the yeses and nos. And then I also introduced them to, on the more button, typically the coffee cup and the clock. I don't want you to be announcing to the class that you've got to go use the bathroom. Just put your clock on if you're going to step away, or, you know, if somebody asks you a question, just throw the coffee cup up there and mute yourself so it's not disrupting class. And it's just a little bit of etiquette around how to be a good online citizen, because it's not like a classroom. When you speak in an online chat, you're the only one speaking, right? You know, we can't have two conversations going on. So teaching them about those things early on is going to help them with this. And we are talking a lot about how this is a business skill as well, life skill, not just school at this point. And so, especially with my background, having done this a lot, working with teams on both coasts, I'm able to draw from that to share with them. I have not had them using the go slower, go faster buttons at all. And I just don't think that they're the maturity levels there for them to think that way. I would expect to see that happening more in college type situations, but in high school, even the most.
The problem is that college faculty can't even react to it, right? You know, they're yeah. Anyway,
I hear you. The last thing in here I want to go, but let's talk about that for a second. Is that the thing that I'm hearing from the professionals is that you cannot expect them to take as much away from an online class session as you would from an in-person session. And therefore, everything you do online should be shrunk down. And that may mean that you don't need to go faster, go slower, because you are only covering one big topic. And so that's an important thing to consider. And that's something that I talk about when I talk about the planning for this. The last thing that I show the students is the annotation panel. You can go ahead and find the annotation panel. Typically, if you're just a participant, it's going to be up in a pull-down menu next to the green rectangle at the top with your meeting ID in it. And it will open up a separate panel. Note this tool looks different if you're the presenter versus if you're a participant. So go ahead and grab an annotation tool out. The one that I drill them on beforehand is the check mark stamp and the X mark stamp, because now we can use annotations to do check for understandings. So I can put some questions up and say which one of these is right and put a check mark next to it, or that type of thing. So with the annotations, again, just a little quick way to do annotations. I can have them circle correct answers and that type of thing. Unlike Pear Deck, they're not doing their own work. It's more of a team-based thing. But I can see how many checks, right? How many people want pizza for lunch versus tacos, and I can look and have them vote that way. So it's just another way to get checks for understanding. I think having all these different ways just keeps it fresh in the classroom. As a presenter, I can clear all the drawings. As a participant, you are only able to clear your own. Too many windows open again.
Steven, can you go over how to do that again? The annotation.
Oh, yeah. Sure. So you should have a pull-down menu next to the meeting ID in the little green square at the top.
Okay.
And in that pull-down menu, you should see annotation.
Okay.
And then that should open you a little palette of tools that you can use. And then as the presenter, I can actually clear all the annotations off the screen.
Ah.
I was just writing. I went, ah.
Ooh, ah.
The one hassle I have with annotation is if you close the annotation panel while you have a tool selected, you can end up not being able to actually use your mouse on your screen in some cases. So the one feature that right now separates Zoom from the rest are breakout rooms. And this is one of the main reasons that E3 went to Zoom over the other things. We actually started with Google Meet because our IT department was leaning that way because we are a Google school. But we learned right away that it wasn't going to handle it. So I believe you can't teach 30 kids online at the same time, but you can teach 4 to 6. More importantly, if what we're doing about it is giving them some normalcy, some chance to interact, they can't do that with 30 people on the call. 1 or 2 strong voices are going to dominate. Everybody else is going to have to take a back seat. So, however, and this was another thing that came up, is some school districts are saying, well, if you're going to use breakout rooms, you're going to have an adult in every breakout room. And that may especially be true depending on what age group you're dealing with, but it's not workable for most people. We don't, but we do know that you have to provide clear instructions. You have to group them so you have people who can work together. You have to have some way to hold them accountable for getting their work done in the breakout room. And you have to tell them where the ask for help button is. And when we go into a breakout room, you're going to find the ask for help button. At the bottom of the screen again, it's going to be a question mark button that shows up once we go into breakout rooms. And that's chat came up with the point that I was just about to hit is you can't share anymore with the whole class once you're in breakout rooms. You're limited to dealing with one room at a time. So I'm going to put the breakout instructions into chat. Oh, helps if I share them with everyone. And the other thing is, and I didn't mention it in this presentation, is I also like to give out through Google Classroom before my class starts my objectives, my essential question, my relevance, but also all the resources they'll need for that day's class. So they have them ahead of time. And that's especially useful for anyone who needs to use some Google Translate on this stuff. They have it and they can get it up in Google Translate beforehand. So we're going to do a real quick breakout session, I believe, if I have that ability.
I'll make you co-host.
I'm sorry?
I'll make you co-host.
Okay.
I think you have to make someone host for them to have breakout room control.
I think so.
True.
That's otherwise, like any kid could just come in.
So just
you got to make him regular host, not a co-host.
Oh.
No, I think she did make me regular host because I have security now, but I don't have breakout room capability. So that's okay. I was just gonna throw it up as random breakout rooms anyway. If you just create 3 breakout rooms.
I changed you to the host now, Steven.
Okay. So let me see if I can do them now. Oh yeah, now I've got some extra things. Okay.
That Steven and I are wearing the same color shirt, by the way. Just observing that.
That was in the memo, wasn't it? So nice. We're gonna do these really quick. There's only a few questions. I'm gonna set a timer and we're gonna come back in 2 minutes. I just want you to get a feel for what it's like. Find the ask for help button and try to follow through the instructions. The other thing that I do when I create breakout rooms is I create extra rooms. Right now I'm creating one called My Office. You can't see it, I'm doing this. Oh, I'm not doing the recording anymore. So it gives me a place to pull people in for one-on-one. If they have a really tough question on their own and it's not going to benefit the breakout room, I can pull them out and talk to them individually. So here we go to breakout rooms.
Cool.
Hi.
Hello.
Helps if I unmute.
So what are we doing?
I was, you guys get that link.
Slide and it just goes away.
There was a link in the Google Doc that says, "What is one thing we have in common?" And then we're supposed
do we need to choose like interviewer, a recorder? No.
Oh yeah,
presenter,
interviewer, interviewee, presenter, and a recorder.
Yeah, did you guys find the ask for help button first? Is the first thing.
No.
There, it's on the bottom.
Where is it?
Yeah, down on the bottom toolbar.
Oh, okay.
Yep, see it.
What do you do?
You can just invite him. this if we need help.
Or ping him and then he comes.
That's cool.
I
I've never
found
used
my
breakout
students
rooms.
don't use that very much though.
I have to use breakout rooms a lot. In her.
Maybe you have to assign that to someone. Like, did we call you?
No, I'm just jumping through. I'm doing modeling what I would do normally.
I feel like you're Janet in The Good Place.
When I first open a breakout rooms, I want to jump in there really quick into every single one so they get the feeling that I'm there to support them. Also to confirm that they know where that ask for help button is. But I am getting paged to a different room, so I'm going to leave you now, and I'll jump to the other room, and then I'm going to bring everybody back together in a minute.
Okay. So should we do this really quick? Do you want me? I can take notes in our thing. So who's the interviewer leader?
I'll be the leader.
Min. Okay. Min. Wait, why
We have
can't
to
I
make a
type in it?
copy.
I'm trying to type into it, but it won't let me.
Yeah, you have to make a copy.
Request edit access.
But didn't it say that you type in the chat?
Oh, do you have to type this whole thing in the chat?
I thought I read it somewhere. I don't know.
I thought you typed the link into the chat. Okay, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
You know what you can do? Whoever's the person actually typing things can share their screen.
There you go. I could, except I can't type into this doc because it says that I need to request edit access.
Go to File and make a copy.
File. Make a copy. Copy.
Yeah, so Susan, if you share your screen with us, we can see what you're doing and we can help walk you through things as well.
Sure. Here we go. Share.
All right, I get to ask the question.
Oh no, we only have 56 seconds. Go.
Okay, what's one thing we have in common? We all work in higher ed.
We're all teachers?
All work in higher ed. Got it.
Okay, what's the next one? What's the next one?
Somewhere you'd like to eat that. Oh, go ahead.
Do we like Korean barbecue? Tasha,
You're supposed to get unique answers. No duplicates.
Where is somewhere you like to eat?
Breweries.
No.
What about Stone?
Costco food court.
Nothing is open now around, no?
It's Costco food court. There we go.
Actually, I don't know if they're actually open. I would assume they're not.
No, they're not open now. I was there like a couple
No,
days
it's
ago.
someplace that is not open.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it says, right?
Korean barbecue.
That's not open. What about sushi place? I think that's
Sushi
not-
restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay, we need one more.
Rotating sushi restaurant.
Rotating sushi restaurant. All right.
Where he uses them in school and also breakout rooms.
All right. By the way, thanks for mentioning metacoders in your email. Whoever sent the email. There's a little blurb about it. Yeah.
There was a conversation that went on that we need to bring back to the center. There's this idea that you can pre-populate your breakout rooms. So for most of us, and I've mentioned this, you want to group your students so that they're going to be productive in their breakout rooms. And you're going to know what that means for you. Setting up breakout rooms manually can take up some class time, and there is a way to pre-populate the breakout rooms. However, it requires that you have the students' email addresses in their Zoom accounts. And we just had a conversation about how it may not be a good idea to have students using Zoom accounts with their school email addresses on them. So if your students are coming in as guests, then they won't be automatically put in their correct breakout room because it doesn't have an email address associated with the guest. So I'm still struggling with that one. I would like very much for all our students to be using Zoom accounts connected to their school addresses. And I think we're in a better position to do that, but simply because it gives me some accountability in terms of I know their names are right, I know who they are, I know I can admit them without problems. And I'm even, at this point, mandating that they log into my classes from their school-issued computer because I can monitor that computer during class time, and I can't monitor their other computers. It doesn't help if they have the other computer sitting next to them, they're doing something, but at least I can see whether or not they're working. So those are questions left to be addressed in terms of what are the security ramifications around using the predefined breakout rooms with defined accounts, and we can talk about that in a minute.
Steve, what security tool are you using to monitor their computers?
Great. I think I have a slide on that, but we'll go ahead and jump to it now, I think. So I was going to give you a chance to respond based on the breakout room, but I think you get the idea. I was going to then have to answer a couple of questions, but again, I want to move through this quick. We're already over time. So again, the group, adding extra breakout rooms, I mentioned that. So the tool that I'm using is, I just realized I'm not sharing anymore. That's okay. The tool that I'm using is Dino. And this is a system we had on because we issued our computers to the school. Dino would be a huge privacy nightmare if you had that installed on computers you didn't own, because it allows us to do almost anything on the computer and keep including logging everything that goes on that computer. So teachers have limited access. We have time-based access and everything else. Our IT department has more freedom. But the nice thing about Dinos is it lets me send links out that automatically get opened up on their computers. But you can also do that with the Google Classroom extension for Chrome if you're using that. It also lets you push out links, and Clever also lets you push out links to some degree. So those are all options that let you push out links. I was talking with a CS educator in New York about his experience in the classroom, and he's like, we really need a tool that's like Dino, a screen desktop tool that's got privacy built in from the get-go from a student perspective that could be a open source kind of tool so that we could get the benefits of being on the students' computers while they're working, but at their discretion, rather than, in our case, it's we have control. So I guess I had the rest of the slide deck, and I'll give it out. It's just talking about current events and Zoom and what else is out there and that type of thing. There are some security issues around Zoom that's not to be denied. Some of those security issues are the very same things that made Zoom popular. The fact that it could be easily installed on a Mac led it to being a source of malware for Mac. Same thing on the PC. However, most of the issues are not as relevant for the school environment as they are in other environments. The biggest announcement was how the New York City Department of Ed decided not to use Zoom, and it came out as they were banning Zoom. Well, it was quite different. They're already a Microsoft school district. They already had Microsoft Teams in place. They didn't see a reason to allow people to use Zoom when they already had Teams. Teams is a good product, but it doesn't have the breakout rooms. It doesn't have the polling. It doesn't have a lot of the features that we just went through that makes Zoom such a good fit for what we're doing. The other thing is I gotta say is we started up on Meet, as I mentioned, and Meet, especially on a Mac, is just not a good tool. It's really not suitable for use in a classroom. The biggest problem for me is there's no difference between a teacher and a student in Meet. The students can boot you out of class. So it doesn't really work. I don't know that we actually had that happen, but the fact that it could is bad. But they would mute each other and unmute each other and all sorts of things. So it was not
going to take them long to figure that out.
So I'm willing to answer any questions here. I'll throw up, my slide deck, and you can look through that later if you want. There are so many resources now versus 2 ago about how to use all this stuff in the classroom that you can find experts focused on what you're doing. But I'm glad to share my experiences and questions.
So I'll upload this on YouTube as soon as Zoom has this processed, and then I'll link to your slides with those YouTube video. Okay.
One thing I think might make this efficiently, if anybody wants to share or make a comment, why don't you raise your hand, and that way we can go around and then everybody can share out. And I think that will run the meeting a bit more efficiently. Stephen, by the way, that was really great. It was super cool.
Yeah, thank you for presenting, Stephen.
My pleasure.
We'll buy you a beer. Back in person.
And does anybody have a question or a comment they'd like to share with us?
I think we should pause the recording at this point.
All right.
I think that's a great idea, Mark.
Okay, stopping it right now.